Okay, so I think I've had some issues with video choppiness, so I've had to cut down on the format of it a little bit, so it's probably not going to look as high quality, but that's okay. At least it won't be annoyingly choppy or anything like that. So we'll see how this works. So today's discussion is going to focus on imperialism in the Americas. Now, of course, this is a world history class. However, this is an American history topic that you're probably going to learn quite a bit about more later. But it is important to understand the United States' role in this whole system, because for the most part, imperialism, it was European. Europe was taking it around the world and was making it happen in different places. Except the United States, we did it as well. And what really makes it interesting for the United States is the fact that on one hand, we're a country of democracy, of freedom, of values. And then on the other hand, we are dominating and we are taking control, and we are going to seize places, and we are going to make decisions without native people's opinions. And so to be able to really understand imperialism in the United States, though, is that you have to understand the bigger picture. The country of the United States was growing throughout the 1800s, and really the United States was busy with its own expansion within what we consider the territorial 48 states. And so we were spreading to different places, and the frontier continually was pushed west and pushed west and pushed west. After the Civil War, that issue of slavery was put out of the picture, and everyone was focused on developing business and pushing to the west and settling and finding new resources and developing the country. And of course that brought us into conflict with Native Americans as well. And as we reach towards the end of the 1800s, officially by the United States government, the frontier will be closed. And so now what? What do we do now? We've conquered this vast amount of territory, we've settled it, we've made it our own. Now where do we look to? And now we begin to really imperialize. Not that it didn't happen before, but our attention began to turn elsewhere. And then directly after that, we're going to fight Spain in the Spanish-American War. But going all the way back to the earlier parts of the country, with James Monroe's Monroe Doctrine, it was issued in 1823. And the point behind it at the very beginning of this age of imperialism was, European countries, stay out of the Americas. Okay, you came here in the 14, 15, and 1600s. It's 1800s. We're now in a century in which the United States is a powerful country. You need to stay out. And so that's what the first point was. The second point was any attempt to colonize further, any attempt to influence the Americas, especially in Central and South America, it's going to be considered dangerous to American peace and safety. And so that I talked about in the last discussion, the idea of a sphere of influence. Talking about China and how it was about trade. In this particular instance, it was a sphere of influence in which the United States wanted to be kind of like the big brother over North, Central, and South America. We wanted to be that go-to country if Colombia had an issue in their territory, or we wanted to be the go-to country if there was an issue in Chile. Okay, and the United States is going to become more actively involved, and that was what the Monroe Doctrine was about. Was we're going to become more actively involved, and you need to stay out of our sphere of influence. So I talked about the Spanish-American War, and again, without being too American history-like, just to understand what the Spanish-American War was. The most important thing is that you have Cuba lying 90 miles south of Florida. And so it, of course, falls within that sphere of influence that we talked about. And Cuba, since the 1500s, had been controlled by Spain. Well, Spain was weakening in its power. And so they were doing whatever they could to hold on to their territories. And this is the age of new newspapers, and so information is going to quickly spread to the United States. Public opinion is going to change towards Spain, and ultimately the United States will send warships to kind of surround Spain to surround Cuba as a show of force. Well, what happens is one of the best naval ships that we have, the USS Maine, will explode. And so the United States, of course, seeing that happen, U.S. citizens are going to totally turn their public opinion against Spain, and there's going to be a rallying cry for the USS Maine, and the United States will get involved there. But interesting enough, we do not actually invade Cuba first. We invade another territory under Spanish control, the Philippines, thus giving us greater access into Asia and into that great sphere of influence within China's reach. So what are the ultimate outcomes of the Spanish-American War? Well, first off, the United States is going to become a major imperialist world power. Secondly, we're going to gain Puerto Rico. Now, what's the importance of Puerto Rico in all of this? The United States was interested in building a canal across the Isthmus of Central America, specifically Panama. Puerto Rico allows the United States to do that because it gives us a point of protection in which we could control the traffic that flowed from the eastern side towards that canal. It was a strategic location. We are also going to gain the territory of Guam, which will allow us to have a stopping off point in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Very important for trade to Asia. And, of course, the Philippines as well, in which we will fight a war against the poor Filipinos who thought that they were getting their freedom, and next thing you know, they have to turn and fight against the people that had liberated them from Spain. And we are also going to gain strong influence over Cuba, kind of like that protectorate status. And in fact, we're going to become very, and when I say we, the United States is going to become very involved in the politicking of Cuba.
So out goes imperialist Spain, in comes imperialist United States in our control. Now, of course, that's all going to change later on when Fidel Castro comes to power. He's going to kind of put a little bit of a dagger in our side, having a communist country located 90 miles to the south of the United States. So, some other examples of imperialism. Alaska will be purchased in 1867 for about 3 cents an acre. It was referred to as Seward's Folly or Seward's Icebox. Hawaii will be annexed in 1898. I think I've referenced this before, but that was caused by, you probably heard of it, Dole Banana Company. They were paying high tariffs to import bananas from Hawaii because it was not considered American territory. So Dole was able to persuade the Hawaiian people to revolt. The United States is going to swoop in and annex the territory, making it part of the United States, thus getting rid of the tariffs. The Virgin Islands will be purchased in 1917. The Panama Canal will be completed in 1914. Later on, President Teddy Roosevelt will issue the Roosevelt Corollary, which is basically the United States' extension onto the Monroe Doctrine, saying that we have the right and the duty to interfere in any Latin American country's affairs. So again, we're expanding our imperialist reach a little bit more. Texas, which was populated by American citizens, will join up with the United States in 1845, thus leading to a different war, the Mexican-American War in 1848, and I referenced this earlier, spreading across the continent, but the United States will gain the territories that will eventually become the states of New Mexico, Arizona, parts of Utah, and California. Yes, California, that huge state that we think of with the population of over 40 million people. So those are all examples of imperialism in which the United States became more actively involved. So what are the effects? Well, we're going to become a major world power. We're not going to see the height of our power until after World War II, but nonetheless, we have reach around different parts of the world. Second effect is European influence in Latin America, for the most part, will end. And instead, it's going to be replaced by the United States influence. And finally, what happens is some of these Latin American countries will win their independence, and the United States will actually put in place what we call strong-arm dictators who limit freedoms, who use military to keep control of their people, and ultimately that's going to be supported by American businesses and by the United States. So, again, thanks for watching. That's imperialism in the Americas. Again, the United States becomes very involved. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my vacation here in France. You enjoy the rest of your school day. Thanks for watching, and remember, never stop learning.